The kidneys have a lot to do with fluids. For me, they have a very, even though they're a pair and they're deeply connected to our sexuality, because they come down, be the bladder, the urethra, the vagina and penis, so it connects into the sexuality through those. They have this spiritual energy, but they're a pair, so you get the male and female aspects of your spiritual energies and sexual energies, but as a whole they seem to have a very female quality to them, and they relate to the venous blood. And I think it's spelt differently, but for me it also has relationships to Venus, the goddess Venus. Got this very Venus-like blue energy to it, and you've got the blue blood. And the blue blood is full of carbon dioxide and is deeply relaxing. Okay, so there's this aspect where we think of waste as toxic, bad, gotta get rid of it. So the arterial blood is important, the venous blood is full of carbon dioxide and waste, no use. I guess you get that within society, don't you? Get useful people and not so useful people. And the useful people are thought of as good, high, better, accomplished. The not so useful people, they're just thought as rubbish. But quite often the useless people have got huge, great hearts. And but just not viewed externally as so important. And likewise, the venous blood, even though it's full of carbon dioxide, deeply to do with relaxation, deeply to do with our feminine side, deeply to do with healing the kidneys. Interestingly, the atmosphere around Venus has very little oxygen in it, but it's completely full of carbon dioxide. The atmosphere of Venus is carbon dioxide. It's a lot of carbon dioxide, and it's the same as the venous blood. And we overbreathe. Generally we overbreathe, trying to get more oxygen in the body. The oxygen, you get too much oxygen, the arteries constrict, the cells constrict, they stop, it's counterproductive. The cells stop receiving the oxygen, they close down to it, they won't receive the oxygen. Hold your breath for a bit, carbon dioxide builds, all of the arteries, capillaries relax and expand, the cells start receiving the oxygen. So it isn't like, oh, I've got to get more oxygen into my blood so I can get more oxygen into my cells. You need to get more carbon dioxide in the blood if you want to get oxygen into your cells. And there's a deep relaxation to it. And with asthma, trying to get more and more breath, and all the capillaries are constricting, all of the fine bronchi are constricting, and you can't breathe. Hold your breath. Carbon dioxide fills up through all of the cells in the lungs, the bronchi fill of carbon dioxide, all the lungs relax, all the capillaries open, the bronchial tubes open. Suddenly you can breathe again. The kidneys relate to this. They relate to the venous blood. They relate to the pleura. It's always painted as blue. The pleura, if you look at pictures of the lungs with the pleura, it's always blue around the lungs. It was interesting when I was working with the cranial sea and the cranial cells. What's the word? The glial cells. That when I came into the ventricles, they were blue. The fluid in the ventricles relate to the venous blood. In anatomy, it's the other way round. They say that the oxygen from the, I've forgotten what they're called, that's being produced in that area is going to the ventricles. For me, it's not. It's working the other way. The used cranial fluid from the whole brain is flowing into the middle, and it's filling the ventricles with the venous fluid, the fluid full of carbon dioxide. And it has this quality, connects me to the kidneys and adrenals, the bladder, the urethra. It connects to the blue energies. To kidneys and adrenals, the bladder here, penis, vagina, urethra. This is from the side. It connects to that anyway. Whether it's full of carbon dioxide, no one knows, but it connects to that. It also connects to the cranial sea flowing down through the myelinating capillaries out through the nerves, but that is more. It is connected to the kidneys, but that's more to do with the adrenals. The kidneys more connect to the blood, the adrenals more connect to the nerves, but it still has this blue energy, and you get the spiritual connection to those through the kidneys and adrenals, and the kidneys have this delightful feminine, angelic connection to the higher energies. The adrenals is more male. It's like the police, that flashing light of police cars. That's the blue light of the adrenals, and this very strong connection up to the higher self. The bladder, penis, vagina give you the connection to the earth. Cells in the brain are apart, connected by tentacles and floating in cranial sea, and they breathe, all their tentacles breathing. And as they breathe, the brain, they breathe as an orchestra, the brain breathes and moves. Some people think this looks like the womb, which does. The genitalia, there's the same energies for the women and men, but the genitalia for the women reflect the blue energies. Like you've got the ovaries, you've got the kidneys, and then you've got the fallopian tubes coming down to the uterus, and you've got the tubes coming down from the kidneys to the bladder, and then you've got the vagina and the vagina. So they mirror each other, and you get a sense, for me, you get a sense of both of them See, these are the kidneys and adrenals, or the ovaries. It is the testes for the men as well, but it's in a different position. Then, for me, this can be the bladder or the heart, the third ventricle in the middle of the thalamus. And you definitely have the bladder here, and maybe the vagina and penis. And if you look at the shape of that, where it comes down and almost touches, but not quite. It's the other way up. This is the hand mudra for the bladder. This is the hand mudra for the vagina and penis. So it's the same picture in the center of the brain for the bladder and the penis and vagina. So was there when I started painting these pictures, and they come in nearly every webinar I do. I'm able to use these paintings. They're just great. And there you have it integrated. So you have the ventricles wrapped around the thalamus, the third ventricle in the middle, the fourth ventricle here, and then travelling. See, these are thought of as the ventricles, and they don't include, it gets chopped off here, but I make the channel down through the centre of the spine, the fifth ventricle. It's connected. You name things as just being here. Notice how it breaks off its root. It needs its root. Notice how magical it looks when you give it its roots. See, the tail grounds it and it becomes a magical staff when you give it its roots. Okay, oh, there we go. I'll put it sideways, so can you see how you've got the ventricles of the brain, the channel down the spine, and how it mirrors the kidneys, the adrenals, the blood. See, I painted this webinar 10 years ago, and I've waited 10 years to teach this webinar. So there we have that. I'll turn it this way up. That has got a kind of magical connotation, that painting, to me.